Hi guys and welcome back. Today I am working on something that I got really rusty at. I could feel it before I even conceptualized this piece that I was going to be very rusty at working on something larger with watercolors and that I needed to tackle it as soon as possible before that got worse. I don't know if that hits anyone else like it does me when I'm working on a different type of art, whether a different set of mediums or with a certain approach or whatever. And I realize it's something that I do enjoy working on. I haven't done for a long time. And I just get this like inkling that I know the next one I do is going to be a struggle. I usually try to get back to it and get that practice back in for the thing that I have neglected for longer than I intended. So this piece, I'm working on a large watercolor with colors. I've been working really small and in ink and black and white for a while now because I'm working on a project that is that. So I have a lot of pieces that fit into a different mold, a different set of requirements. So I just had the urge to get back to this and to get a painting done and get some practice in so that it's not going to be like 6 months since I painted something like this. Instead, it can be, I don't even know how long it's been. A month, 2 months, 3 months. It's better than if I had put it off. So yeah, let's talk about it a bit about getting back to something that has been sitting a bit. And I do have a really exciting announcement though today, and that is that my Lunar Lost tarot deck is officially available at my shop. So for anyone who did miss out when I ran the Kickstarter to help fund this last year, thank you guys so much for everyone who did support it, by the way. But if you did miss out, or if you wanted more card decks, those are officially, yes, live over at my shop. So there's a link down in the description that'll take you over there so you can go check that out to get one for yourself. I am so excited about it. It's been a while since I've actually played with this deck myself, so it was really fun to sit down and take the pictures and revisit this project and look at all the cards. So the big blunder with this piece, which was so frustrating, was that I did not glue it down correctly. And by that, I mean I didn't adhere the watercolor paper to the raw panel well. And been something that the last few times I worked bigger than a 5x7, I didn't have perfect outcomes. And this one was just like so much worse that it hit me. I need to go back to basics. I need to really pay attention while I'm doing this step and get that back in lock. And then hopefully fix this issue that I've been having. So the process, if you don't know, I've talked about it in the past. It's fairly simple, but I just transfer my sketch onto my watercolor paper, and then I use matte medium as the glue, and I put that down on the raw panel, and then I align it with the back of my watercolor paper. I squish it down with some weight. I make sure there's like paper or cellophane or something that can protect the image itself, the painting surface of the watercolor paper. And then I just put lots of weight on it and I let the glue dry. And then I trim off the excess watercolor paper around the side, and there you go. That's my painting surface. I love this because theoretically it keeps the paper very flat while I'm working on the painting. There's no warping. It's just really pleasant to work on it like this. And it feels really solid and substantial, like a real thing when I'm done with it. Anyways, I have had warping from it. Either I haven't gotten the edges glued down all the way, so like corners will pop up or sections of the edges will have little bubbles as I'm painting on it, which is really annoying, but it often will resolve itself once the whole piece is totally dry. But it's not fun to paint on when it bubbles up like that. This piece was by far the worst piece that I have ever glued down. It looked fine when I flipped it over and I trimmed the edges. It seemed like it was going to just be exactly what I wanted it to be, nice flat painting surface. But once I started actually saturating the background, it just warped so bad. There was just huge ridges all the way up and down. It was bad. It was really frustrating to paint on. It also looked really bad as I was trying to record it because the light was hitting it really strangely because it would catch on those ridges and then create these big shadows. It was just a mess, and I was just so So frustrated by that. It takes a lot of time and resources to transfer the sketch, and then the watercolor paper and the panel itself. It's just all an investment, and I have a really hard time wasting that stuff. It can really just make me so angry at myself. But anyways, I was on the fence if I needed to start over, if it was going to sort itself out, because it did actually end up staying warped after I thought it was dry. So I had decided to set it down, move on, and say, okay, I don't want to paint on this anymore, and I want it to look good. I was trying to have my reconnection with working on colors, watercolors, something larger. I didn't want it to be a piece that I would immediately be angry at the outcome. So I knew that I had to just throw it in and start it over. So I did. I transferred it, and I came back down the next morning, and it had actually completely flattened out in the night. It looks completely normal. And while I was really frustrated when I saw that, I was like, I could have just waited. But in the end, I realized it was better that way, because for one, it did affect how the paint settled on the piece. So there were like lines up and down in the original version where the watercolor pooled into the little valleys, and yeah, it was not actually perfect. It was good practice, I would say. It was really good practice for me getting the colors that I wanted and getting that granulation happening and the wet on wet wash that I was going to try to do, and I accepted it as that. It was going to be good practice. And in the end, it was. So that was great. That was great practice to remind myself to pay better attention when I'm doing things that I think I've got in the bag, like gluing down my paper. And yeah, it was good to just be able to play with the paint again. So anyways, I scrapped that one. I have it sitting in my closet, and I retransferred. I had already done that, and then I glued it down. But this time I was very thorough to make sure that I used enough glue and that I was really thorough with getting it spread out evenly all the way up to the edges. And then I made sure that my weight that I put on top of the whole sandwich of art supplies, that weight was evenly distributed, and that it was heavy enough, and I let it dry all overnight, and that was it. It was perfectly glued down. It was a completely flat surface to paint on. I didn't have any minor issues at all. So yeah, that was a good reminder for me to not be taking for granted some of the steps and just breezing through them, and to take my time with it and really give it the attention that I want. So yeah, I loved working on this one. It was actually really nice to be able to get a practice of the background and play with the colors, and I had already figured out what colors I was going to use, but it's always different when you work really large scale versus like a smaller color comp. It plays differently. And even if you were to paint like the same size of piece without the transferred sketch, if you were just going to put the paint down, you would get a very different texturing effect because you could just go at it. So yeah, I enjoyed that that practice. I also made sure to use my masking fluid and some masking tape and then paper in the middle of the figure in this piece so that I could essentially really just play with the background and not have to be really precious about the edges. I am trying to do that more, trying to be more thoughtful and mindful about what it takes to get a really good result with the masking fluid. I find that it can be really fickle, and I have not exactly figured out the right perfect steps to get it to not have any of the issues that I've had, but it worked pretty well this time. I was happy with that. So yeah. I think that this video is going to be a little rambly, but it is very, very nice to like review what I actually did with this piece, the things that I really enjoyed doing, and it was a good reminder that I enjoy working with like different parameters, I guess you could say. I love working on little paintings. There's something very satisfying about being able to put washes down very quickly and get pieces done very quickly and to add them to my stack. But there's something to be said about being more mindful and spending more time and focus on something like this, where it can be much larger and I can just get lost in the process more. So yeah, I loved working on this one. I loved thinking about this season that I was trying to emulate in it. That was something that I was really focusing on when it came to thinking about the concept, is that I wanted to capture some of that autumn moodiness, the colors, the characters that I like to paint during that time, and just that feeling of a chill in the air, but also the warm colors. I love that like dichotomy of chill, cool air and warm yellows and oranges of the leaves. I love how those things come together. So this was a nice piece to get me back into thinking about what I can do in the fall time, which is historically the time that I feel the most creative. So I feel like I'm on the edge of really getting back to enjoying my pieces. I'd love to paint more of this type of character coming up too. I love painting like Grim Reaper, ghostly characters that represent that kind of bridge between life and death. And I find those characters fascinating. I've painted them over and over again so many times, so many different variations, different ways of portraying them. And I'd love to do more of them again. Fall time, of course, always feels like the right time for me to touch back into that motif that I like to visit a lot. So I think maybe I'd like to put more thought into a body of work that I could do this fall that ties together. Like, I don't know, I'm just thinking more about like a series of pieces that I could do that have some commonality to it to help me work on color and something bigger while I'm finishing up my other project that is the opposite of that, small and grayscale and very quick. So yeah, maybe that could be the core of what I'll be working a lot on in autumn. I don't know. I'll think about it. I'll think about a nice fall time art project for myself. And don't forget, my Lunar Lost Tarot deck is officially available at my shop. So if you'd like to get one for yourself, there's a link down in the description that'll take you over there. And it is one of the things that I'm most proud of that I've created. So I would love for you to go check it out. And yeah, that is it for me today. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with me.